Welcome to Honestly Speaking, a safe place to be unsafe. Live commentary and dialogue from a biblical, logical, cultural, and comical perspective.
Hey, what up, everybody? It's your girl Lee from Honestly Speaking. As per usual, how are you doing? Man, so much has happened in the past week, in the past few weeks, in the past 48 hours. I mean, look, me and my friends, we sat down and we had a candid conversation about a bunch of recent issues. No matter where you land on the political, social, even spiritual spectrum, I think you could glean some information from this, especially as individuals who have different positions on a few things. So hopefully you have a tribe that's pouring into you and one you can pour into. And with that being said, let's dive into this conversation. All right, welcome back to Honestly Speaking. This is our first multi-platform live that we have that is streaming on YouTube as well as Facebook. Thank you so much. I have some illustrious guests tonight. I have my man Jay Harris. Jonas, you got Marcus the Coco King, and then Crystal Clear. I am your host, Honest-Leigh, Honestly Speaking, and tonight we're going to talk about 3 questions. Now, the aim is not to bash, it's not to do anything that's negative. The aim is to promote healthy, diverse, robust dialogue in a way that helps us all to grow. We don't want to talk for talking's sake, and we definitely don't want to just have discord. So without further ado.
All right, let's talk about the debate, people. What's your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen?
The debate? I didn't watch the debate because I could care less.
Why is that?
To be honest with you.
Okay.
I saw one clip. Will you shut up, man? Like, that was my theme for the whole debate between both of them. Like, will you shut up, man? Like, neither one of y'all is speaking to anything that I really want to hear. So it's all semantics at this point. And it's like, I went to sleep. I'd rather catch up on my sleep versus sit up and watch that.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Crystal just said debate. What we're talking about is the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. It was the night before last. A lot of people had a lot of different feelings about it. It made international news. It was hands down the most watched presidential debate in years. And as you see, there are a lot of sound clips, sound bites, and memes coming out of this. So what's the first question, Crystal?
What were the significant statements, moments, and silences from the debate?
So what were the significant statements, moments, and silences from the debate? Now, Marcus already said, I ain't watching it. And the proof and the pudding that he means that is he had more than enough time to watch the debates. And he is set on, I'm not watching it because I already know what I'm going to do or what I'm not going to do. So Jonas and Crystal, before I go, what were the significant moments, silences, or statements or non-statements that were made in both of your opinions?
I'm just gonna say, man, like he did not really maybe he's more specific. Donald Trump did not say much of substance. Was one of my biggest takeaways is I don't know what he was trying to say. I think he said random things like I gave you guys football. And what was it like? Bad things happen in Philly, Philadelphia. But I think that he was a defensive lineman at that time. He was just attacking the quarterback every single moment during the whole debate. So for me, it was like there weren't a lot of takeaways.
Yeah, he spent more time causing confusion than actually answering questions or giving any type of positive or any type of feedback that was beneficial that we could even take as a resource for how he would, be in office in his next in the next season. But I will say the thing that stood out to me the most was when he was asked to denounce white supremacy. I was waiting for it, and he said, "Stand back, stand by."
Yep. So can I just set it up? Can I just set it up? I'm going to try to find it and see if I can share my screen and play it. But Donald Trump was asked by the moderator, who at the end of this probably needed to have a couple of shots and take some baby aspirin along with stroke medicine. He was asked if he would denounce white supremacy, and to be as fair and as clear as possible, he was like, I denounce it all. I denounce it. I mean, what do you want me to say? I mean, I denounce it. What? And it was just like, wait, specifically, we want you to say the words. I mean, what? He was like, okay, who? And so Sleepy Joe, in the background, he goes, the Proud Boys. Now, that was very strategic on the part of Joe Biden to say the Proud Boys, because if you don't know who the Proud Boys are, the Proud Boys are a Western chauvinist nationalist organization. They literally categorize themselves as Western chauvinists. So people often think that the Proud Boys are always made up of white people, but the Proud Boys are not made up strictly of white people. They are made up of men who are Western chauvinists. So they believe in the Western world and they promote violence. Like you can Google or YouTube just like clips of their founder saying, listen, choke a transgendered person. He used like a slur for a transgender person, choke them. He said, I want to punch people in the face. The problem is conservatives are too passive. We need to shoot. I am telling you to kill the liberals. He calls them like libtards and all that. So this is literally what he's saying. And they have literally had people in their organization that's been convicted of like murder, ambushing police. Like it's like, this is facts. So when Joe Biden said that particular name, his response was what? What was it again, Crystal?
Stand back, stand by.
Stand back and stand by. Now, just a brief background on who my illustrious guests are. Marcus, you are an alum of what group of armed services?
That would be the United States Marine Corps.
Okay, Marine. Okay, so we not like Marines. Okay, like the Marines are just Marines. It's not like a special. They are the thing, right? So if your commander in chief tells you to stand back and stand by, is that the same as saying stand down? I just want to know.
No, that's saying stay ready.
Oh, thank you. From a Marine. Okay? From a Marine. That's you heard it there. Did you have anything else to add to that, Crystal or Jonas?
No, this was utterly disappointing, and after that was, I think, when I just like had my fill. So I was
okay.
I wish that there was more substance, right? Because I think that for me, I'm like this: Donald Trump's coming in for ratings and entertainment. And I'm gonna say to be fair, I believe that there are things that he could have said to support things that he's trying to do. But instead of sharing those things, he kind of like became the center of attention, but he didn't share information. And then on the other hand, I think with Joe Biden, he could have, and like on some of the areas of like, instead of some of this, it was agitating. You saw he was being agitated. And so before he would make his point, he took a shot back. And I'm like this, no, make the point, right? Because sometimes the point can be the shot, you know. And so if he would just made the point that he was trying to make, you know, I probably would have went over. Cause I would say for me that was like a lose-lose debate or battle.
Crystal, did you have anything else you wanted to say about that?
Yeah. I think what was sad, and this might get into the next question, forgive me if it does. I think what was sad for me was, you know, these people are supposed to be leaders in our nation. And if I was watching that debate with a child, I don't even know how I would explain what they were witnessing. It was very immature. It was extremely unprofessional. How can I, as a citizen, believe that you care enough about me to do what's right if you can't even respect the person that you're debating with?
Right.
Donald Trump was very passionate about creating confusion, about identifying himself as a victim. And Joe Biden, in my opinion, seemed to lack passion. It seemed like a lot of what he said was rehearsed. And when he wasn't taking shots at Trump, it was rehearsed. So it just left me feeling like I don't really know if either one of y'all is beneficial. I don't even know if I can vote the lesser of the two evils on this one. It's kind of like, who don't I want more?
So speaking of which, Jonas, did you want to comment on that at all? Because you saw Marcus perk up. He literally linked it. He was like, "Wait a minute, she about to touch." Well, what I'm talking about? Do you think that it's beneficial? Well, matter of fact, just ask the next question, Crystal. What's the next?
All right. Do you think that this last debate will change anyone's mind on voting? Yes. I think that some people may have been coming to the table with voting lesser of the two evils, but now it's become who don't I want more? Like, not even the lesser of the two evils. It's become a vote against and not a vote for.
Gotcha. So I think my thing that I struggle with, and I'll answer the next question along with this question, is I was more disturbed about a few comments. First of all, I just want to acknowledge Trump is going to be Trump. Like, I don't understand why people are like really upset. Like, can you believe that? And I think that you have people specifically on the right, and it's not all people on the right. You have specifically some people on the right who saw how he was overwhelmingly agitating Joe Biden. And what they did was they couldn't defend it. They couldn't say, well, he was on the defense. And I mean, they're still trying to defend it. They're still trying to say, well, the moderator was biased. Joe told him, shut up, and called him a clown and all of these other things. And then they'll say, you know, well, the whole thing was just a mess. No, Trump was a mess and Joe Biden was messy. Like, that's really how it was. That is, and trying to be as neutral as possible. The things that Trump did, to me, that people are not talking about is the fact that he deliberately used all of these insults to distract and confuse Joe Biden. I mean, that is literally a tactic that the enemy uses, like even spiritually. Confusion is not from God. Like, that's it. Like, but he deliberately was just throwing things at him and trying to filibuster all of the time. So that way, with like ridiculous streams of like semi-consciousness, it was word salad at certain points. And so that way we don't know what he said and we can't fact check him. So that was the first thing. The second thing that really disturbed me was the fact that he said he was not going to touch Roe v. Wade. I don't think I know Christians who are one issue voters. That's it. They're like, look, for it's marriage, sanctity of marriage or I'm anti-abortion. A lot of people are not pro-life. They are just anti-abortion. That is, just be clear. And a lot of anti-abortioners who come in the name of being pro-life, chose Trump, literally said, I held my nose and voted for him because I believe one of the things he's going to do is try to get a justice in that's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. When Biden brung up this woman, who the world is afraid of because she's a Catholic that talks in tongues. I don't know, literally I've been watching shows and they're like, and she talks in tongues. And I mean, everybody talks in a tongue. I'm speaking in English right now. Saying, you know what I mean? But anyway, for whatever reason, that scares them. I would be more scared of the fact that she's her particular sect literally has handmaids like that. Look, I'm a Christian, but that's a little suspect, but I don't know her, so I can't say everything. I see you, Jonas, and I'm coming to you in 1 second. So I think that is what's causing people on the left to speculate and in certain situations come at her in particular ways. I don't like the fact that she supported Citizens United, which allows corporations to be counted as people so that we can never get the money out of politics and furthers the establishment. I don't know her stance on Roe v. Wade, but what Trump said was, no one's going to touch that. Who said we were going to touch that? And you heard crickets from evangelicals. That should be the thing that's wait, because things. Either one, he's just lying how he normally lies, and if he is lying, to have her come in on the back, and then you can't even trust that that's what he's going to have her do, or he just told you the truth. So either way, Trump is for Trump. Either way, Trump is for Trump. It seems like either way, Trump is for Trump. I think Trump is that's him. That's who he is. He is for himself. Were you going to say something else, Jonas?
Yeah, I don't
mute yourselves, man.
The debates sway people anymore. I think one, debates were more effective when we were younger and my grandparents were watching them because you weren't inundated with a 24-hour news cycle or other ways of just getting information. And so I think that there was more trust in that some politicians are doing things all right because you didn't know what they had for breakfast. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I see with this is no one's being swayed. And what I think that people pick their sides in the sense where it's if you call out racism, then you're left, right? I was listening to someone today, and they were like, if everyone in West Philly had guns in their house, that's a problem, right? But if everyone in the suburbs has guns in their house, that's not a problem, right? And so it's we pick sides, and we're just listening to see what we can critique. And so I think that's where I feel the country is that we've already picked our side, and so people aren't looking to be convinced. They're looking for ways to explain your view as being the wrong view.
Well, to that, I would say the louder people have picked their sides. I think there are a lot of people who haven't picked a side. There are a lot of people who don't feel represented, don't feel like what's important to them is even being considered, even a discussion. And I think that is why we have to, they're making so much effort towards pushing voting, because people are just, this system is not for me, I'm just not voting. It's almost like a level of powerlessness to it. Because the system is so corrupt, I'm just not going to be a part of it. So that group of people, we don't really know how large that group is. I was looking it up today to find out how many people really identify as Republican, how many people really identify as Democrat. So I do think there are people out there that want something different, but don't really know how to get to it.
And I want to talk about that really quick because that springboards into Marcus. So Marcus, you can unmute yourself, Marcus. Marcus is the type of dude. He's like, look, none of these people represent me, and yeah, just explain your position, Marcus. I'm not going to speak for you.
Well, voting is a choice, and not voting is a choice. You choose to move how you see fit. Now, what angers me when we have this discussion is the people who try to minimize the civil rights movement and say your ancestors died for your right to vote, which is a false statement in itself because they were murdered. They didn't die, first and foremost. And it wasn't just for voting, it was for human rights. So, and voting is one of the human rights that we weren't afforded prior to the civil rights movement. So, standing here today in 2020, another election year, everyone's all up in arms about voting in the presidential election, but they don't have the same passion with the primaries and the stuff that goes on locally in our community. So, what are you really pushing, and how much do you really know about the system that you're trying to get us to place faith in? And then we're left with two candidates that don't represent us. So, why should I'm never going to pick the lesser of two evils, or the devil that I do know versus the devil that I don't know. And a lot of people who are voting against Trump are doing so because it's vogue. It's not even like they really have any substance. They're just emotionally led, and they go, "Oh, we got to get him out." So okay, we get him out, and then we get someone else in. But what's the plan for our community and our social economical situation with this next regime? And are they even talking about that so that we can understand it? So if there's not a candidate that speaks to what I want to hear and what's best for my people, I don't think I should be forced into voting because of this whole your ancestors stuff that our elders try to force feed us. And that's where accountability has to come in. Someone has to check them and say, like, no, that's not that, and that doesn't mean that. So stop trying to manipulate a situation because it's benefits that point benefits what the agenda you're trying to push. So that's my take on the whole voting versus voting.
I have a question.
Wait. Let Jonas ask his question, and then you.
So I don't know, because my wrestle is and it's crazy. So T.I. on on his album is called Us or Else, a letter to the system, and he had a song where he said, "I'd be a line where he said I'd be a martyr if my granddaughter benefit," right? And it's like, and when I hear that, I'm like this. All right, I don't see someone who will benefit me today, but as Trump said, you guys left all these seats for me, and those seats being open.
What seats? What are you talking about? Explain.
The judges' seats.
Thank you. There you go. Let's talk.
They are there in those positions until they die.
Yeah.
And so that means Trump says, you've allowed me to put 128 people.
No, 198.
Sorry, 198 people in a position to affect your lives. Want them to for the next 40 plus years, right? And so, for me, do I get him vote not for me today, but so when my children have children,
you have the right judges, or you have less of the negative judges in place.
Right.
For you, it's not necessarily. And if let me. We gotta get ready to move on to the next topic. I'm gonna come to you, Crystal, but we gotta move on to the next topic soon. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Jonas, you're saying, of course, it's two evils. I don't like it, but when I vote against Trump or I vote for Biden, I'm not voting even for Biden. I'm voting for the people that I know that Biden is going to put in positions that will make it better for my child. Because unless your and this is my position, unless your revolution impacts policy, it don't matter. Because we just gonna go back to guerrilla warfare. And honestly, let me be clear, people, we are not ready for any type of guerrilla warfare with the masses. With the dominant culture, we are not. First of all, it's too many people. We don't know who's allies, who's just, and then we don't. And when I say we, I'm talking specifically Black folk. We already established all skin folk and kin folk, and just because you white doesn't mean that you're against Black folk. You could be like really for humanity as a whole. So once we start
Can
getting
I ask a question on this
civil war
subject?
thing, huh?
Can I inject a question real quick
Yeah,
about
yeah.
this
Go ahead, go ahead, go
specifically?
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
What about Joe Biden's record? Because he's a politician over 40 years. The proof is in the pudding, correct? So what about his track record says that he's going to put forth policies and changes that are going to help our great grandchildren or whatever the case may be? His track record, if we look at it, doesn't lend itself to saying that he's the person that's going to put us on the right track. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So and so I guess my pushback for that would be so I listen to a lot of people who are now some older, some in our age group who have one held certain positions in life, have even acquired a criminal record. Now on the other side of life, or even in hindsight to some things, they've gotten their masters and PhDs, and now are helping people because they're like, I was listening to Dr. Philip Roundtree, and he was like it takes years to get out of the trauma that you've been through, right? And so it's like, and I think that sometimes like it's stuff that was in people's past, and now they've moved from it. And I think that in politics, we see what they said in the past, but we also got to say, at some point, I have to have faith in there's a process of someone trying to do something different. Even if it's him saying, yo, in my dying days, I want to change some of the stuff I screwed up, right? I think like while we don't really like deathbed confessions, a deathbed confession sometimes is really heartfelt, and someone saying, "Let me fix some of these things I messed up. I messed up so much," and so that's my only thing where I think that giving a chance, like
Yeah, I also think it's a couple of things. I do think it's more so about not so much what he himself will do. He may be the person useful for opening the door for people to get people that are going to do something to get in positions. That is quite a possibility. I do think, although he may not be passionate, he may be a part of opening the door for people who are passionate about doing something beneficial. Um, in addition to that, I think also we need to start think more strategically about how we use our vote. I don't necessarily believe that we have to vote because our ancestors, quote unquote, like they say, died for our right to vote. It is still my right to use my voice as I see fit. I do think we need to think about how we're going to use our vote and how we're going to use our voice to encourage other people to use their vote to affect the structure. The structure in and of itself is needs to be impacted. So we need to be we can think now, hey, I'm going to do this vote for what he could do in office for my children's children. But the next time this presidential election comes up again, something needs to be happening in that space where we're using our voice and people are uniting and coming together to do something to impact the structure, because the structure in and of itself is not for us.
I agree. And then we need to focus on black nationalism. That's the key. If we come together as a black community, then we ain't got to worry about trying to figure out what's going on and who's for our best interests, and we can control the votes, control the economy, all in our community is where it starts. But we don't own any stores. We got everybody else coming in here setting up shop, feeding our kids, making millions and sending their kids to college because it's not cool or cliche anymore. I don't know what happened. We were kids, Mr. Whoever owned the store and his wife and kids worked in there, and then somewhere along the line it changed. And something so small as that, which we might not think is a big deal, is very big to our community. And
Right.
that's part of the problem.
All right, so can I'm gonna ask you a couple questions, but before I do, thanks for joining us, my man, Jay Johnson. Yeah, you can unmute yourself now. I just wanted to say thank you. I wanted to acknowledge. I know people looking like, what's going on? I see somebody else coming. Yeah, it's Jay Johnson. He's joining us for this discussion. We're on the first part of the question still, Jay, when we're talking about politics. We're actually at the last component on like, does voting change people's mind? Marcus is like, no, I don't have to vote. I believe Black nationalism is the key. And I'm about to follow up and ask him a question before we have to pivot, because we do have to pivot. But what I was saying, even before we follow up, is part of the reason why I think that we cannot be as revolutionary as we desire in our approach in a community is because we don't have a lot of the skill or the resources to do certain things. So for instance, people want to say, I don't care if we have a civil war, bring it on. Well, statistics shows that the some of the top three things that were bought during the pandemic were guns and ammo, in addition to medical supplies and masks, but guns and ammo, and then shoes. Who do you think bought the guns and the ammo? And who do you think bought the shoes?
Pretty much.
That's very telling. And I'm not coming at my people. What I'm saying is, when it comes down to certain things, I don't think so. Now, somebody could say that's because when did we ever need to go to a store to buy a gun? That is a point too. That is a point too. That is a point. However, I'm just saying it's not enough, even street weapons, for people to rally around. And to be honest, the same people that have street weapons are the people that
jumping in.
They're fighting against us from the inside.
Yeah, I'm jumping in. That's why I laugh when they say, that's why, as I said earlier, when people in urban areas, quote unquote urban areas, have guns, it's violence. But when people who aren't in urban areas have guns, it's NRA. And I'm like, and then in a city like this, give back your guns, right? And I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
No, it's very interesting.
Yeah, but as far as Black nationalism, and as far as Black nationalism, what do you mean by that, Marcus? You can.
I wanted to add on to a question too. While you answer that, Marcus, why you answer what do you mean by Black nationalism? I also wanted to ask, how do we, in light of what Leigh just said, how do we achieve Black nationalism or Black unity to get the things that we need while we have the issue of consumerism that is like plaguing our people?
Okay, so Black nationalism is two parts. Well, two main parts. There's many parts to it. Politics and politicians, meaning we control the politics and politicians in our community. So it starts, like I said earlier, with voting in the primary elections versus, just going to the presidential election. We have to vote in our
Down
neighborhood.
ballot. Down ballot.
Right. And we need to understand what these politicians are bringing forth. And if they're not bringing forth what we need, they shouldn't get our vote. The other main part is the economic part. Like I said, you need to understand that if we don't own nothing in our communities, how can we get the leverage of the politician?
So
If they don't feel,
how do we? Oh man, I gotta pivot. You
Well,
are
so
answering
much.
Jay's question, but so many questions, because then how do we own it? Like if we look at it, part of the issue is, I'm gonna just talk. I'm somebody who did not vote for Barack Obama. You know what I mean? I didn't vote for the other person either. I don't even, who did he run against? I don't know. But anyway, I didn't vote for either one of them jokers. I didn't. And part of the reason, the second time I was thinking about Citizens United and a bunch of other stuff that took place. Anyway, I did not vote for Barack Obama. I loved him as a man. I just did not agree with enough of his policies. And I knew he was going to win, and he was going to win twice. I knew it, right? But one of the things that happened during his term was Citizens United. What Citizens United does is it basically allows corporations considered as people, so that basically it pays off politicians. Now a corporation can say, hey, I'm sponsoring this particular politician, and you just basically bribing them. So what does that have to do with anything? These corporations pay politicians to create policy. One of the things that happened was the alarming rate of Black people that got denied home loans and small business loans during Barack Obama's tenure. Now, I'm not going to just slam him, because as much as pro-choice as he was, Barack Obama also had the lowest abortion rate during his tenure too. Even though he was pro-choice, he had the least amount of abortions take place while he was in office. So I'm not just throwing him in. I'm just trying to look at it as unbiased as possible. But what I'm saying is, it sounds good, but if we don't even have a capital to get there, that means that we need a system that we're going to have to work together to strategize to get, in order to get help to even get the money to buy the business, to buy the store. And if the system is systemically, for lack of a better term, and not trying to be redundant, if it's systemically keeping us out, then how do we address that? That means you have to have people that vote, not just on a local level, but on a national level, because the national levels put people in these judges positions that help to do. You see how it all connects? My only reason to ever vote up ballot is to what I think about the judges that are put in place. Now, I do know some people, and I know I see people chomping at the bit. I'm gonna give everybody one more minute, and then we're gonna move on. Now, I do know some people who are the way that they're voting, because one, they would rather a civil war than World War III. And they are very serious. They have done like research. They're like, listen, there are people who are war hawks, and certain people get in office. This is what's going to happen. I hate this current climate. I hate this racial tension and civil unrest, but I'm voting this way so that we can deal with ourselves, because you also have to remember, just like we were watching, Jonas was talking about Dr. Joy today, who talks about post-traumatic slave disorder. She said, all of this civil unrest keeps us fighting against each other. And we all recognize that America has enemies. And the enemies of America are trying to do their best to make us fight against one another so that they can take over. And we've seen it. And I'm not talking about ridiculous fake cyber attacks or people claiming that individuals ADOS or bots, because that's not true. I'm talking about legitimate countries trying to sow division amongst us, so that way it weakens our economy and they cut us down at our feet. So people vote for various reasons. I just believe it's individuals' right to vote, and I'm not throwing a stone at anybody. Some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but I trust in the name of the Lord. God,
talk about it.
He can never be impeached or anything. He is King and Lord, and that's just how I feel about it. But I am to make a wise decision and fight the power. We're going to have everybody give a 1 minute statement to close all of this out, and then we got to move on.
Yeah, I think that my concern with further division, I don't think we're going to be successful. Doesn't mean I don't love my people, and I don't think we shouldn't come together and we shouldn't impact the structure. But I do think as a people, we need to be different than the dominant party and unite with others who are like-minded, and come together against the structure. I think united, we are stronger than we are divided. There are a lot of people that don't agree with the dominant structure. And bringing all of those people together, we have way more of a possibility of impacting some form of change than we do divided.
My quick input was I guess when you brought the statistics of like during Obama's era that there was lower abortion rates, right? And I was just looking up some stats on just on rebellion. Is that when something is allowed, or actually when something's restricted, people chase after it, right? And so it's almost like if you constantly like, yo, you can't do this, it makes people want to do it. And I think that like, and we see that in church and schools and things like that, where it's like, hey, it's so much like behavior modification when it's just like the job of the president is not really to do all that stuff, is to govern the people. And so we've added too many things onto the presidency the same way the people have added all these different things on the policing. And now it's like, let me do the actual job that I was elected for, not all the extra stuff. There's really something that's local level or even household stuff.
Marcus, what's your summary?
I just think we need to there needs to be a re-education on politics in our neighborhoods and our community until we're more mature about the situation, so that we can have a positive dialogue and everybody understands what's going on versus being just emotional and saying I don't want this, but not having a reason why they don't want this, and not being able to articulate why they want something different versus what they had, and they're able to look at it objectively, not emotionally, and say, well, I don't like Trump, that's why I don't want him in office no more. But when you look at what he may or may not have done, it may not have harmed you in any way. He might just say a bunch of stupid stuff, but his policies may have benefited you if you take a look at it. I'm not pointing out one specific policy or anything like that. I'm just saying a lot of times when I ask people what's the reason, they don't have a reason besides he's an idiot. So I think we need to re-educate ourselves on what politics are so that we can mature in politics and have mature and healthier conversations about the subject.
Got you. Jay, why you doing what you're doing? Do you have any closing comments on the like the whole political climate and state of
real quick, I mean, it's a question, but it doesn't have to be answered. I guess I would need to. I just want to know what did Black Wall Street, or was it called Black Wall Street? What got bombed? What did they do? Because what did they do to achieve what they achieved? Because when I hear, I mean, I know it was segregation. Segregation was in place, so I know it was a whole different motivation. So what did they do to achieve the level of success and financial unity, superiority, yada yada yada? And because when I hear Black unity, and it's such a far-fetched concept for me. Yeah, but go ahead.
All right.
They trusted each other.
Wait.
Can I say each other?
Wait, Marcus. Jay, mute your video when you hold it like that. Just turn your camera off, because people are texting me like, "Is he doing laundry?" and make sure you turn your there you go, and your sound off too. There we go. All right. So to Marcus, were you going to respond to that?
Well, yeah, the two things I could think of was there was trust and then there was group economics. Like those are the two things that we have none of in today's society. So the Black Wall Street thing, like everybody was all in together because they didn't have any other avenues. Now, today, we feel like if we're the one that made it out, like I made it.
Yep.
Like that's the difference.
Right. So I think that it also has to do, we don't understand the ramifications or social, financial, or whatever ramifications and consequences and even trauma from slavery. We really don't get it. I think that is the answer to Jay's question when he says, what was so, like, what did they do? They knew that they were all that they had.
Yep.
They put their hope in one another, literally because they could go nowhere else.
Yeah.
Because of slavery, a lot of times, us as Black people, we need to be healed, we need to be made whole, which kind of segues into the next topic. Wait. You already know what it is. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, subscribe, and share. Just make sure you like it, and you comment, and you subscribe, and you share it. Peace.